When the city fell, there was a commotion that no one had ever remembered before. Everywhere there was blood and fire, death and destruction, slaughter and cruelty. A young soldier encountered a young woman who, in her terror, was running aimlessly in every direction. The soldier, coveting the woman's earrings, reached out from his horse and with a single motion tore off the earring from her right ear. Blood streamed from the young woman's ear as she leaned against the nearest tree. Seeing that the earring was not valuable, the plundering soldier drove his spear into the poor woman's chest with such force that she was pinned to the tree she had been leaning against. Another soldier came across a woman holding an infant. The unfortunate woman had nothing for the savage soldier to loot, so he forcibly took the infant from the mother's arms, swung it around by the head, and smashed the baby's head against the wall, killing the poor child instantly. Moments later, the body of the unfortunate mother was crushed under the hooves of the merciless soldiers' horses, who were taking control of the city. These atrocities were happening throughout the great city of Bukhara, which was considered the beacon of all the northeastern cities. The grand mosques at it was not only Bukhara that suffered, all the cities, just like Bukhara, were afflicted with the same fate. Merv, Nishapur, Gurganj, Kujan, Samarkand, and Otrar were all devastated because the Mongol disaster had swept through. This calamity was caused by a man in his middle years, determined, resolute, intelligent, and a ruthless and bloodthirsty politician named Genghis Khan. He considered himself the agent of God's wrath and believed he had come to eradicate corruption from the earth and establish God's justice. This proof was as initially indicated: unaccountable slaughter, violation of honor, plundering, boundless oppression, and severe cruelty are well known. It is said that when the Mongols went to conquer other areas from Bukhara, someone was asked what the Mongols did to your city. The response was, they came, killed, burned, destroyed, took away, and left. This brief and effective answer became proverbial. Among all the unnatural disasters that have occurred since the beginning of human civilization, causing the deaths of millions of men, women, old, young, urban, rural, guilty, and innocent people. According to most historians and researchers who have studied this matter, three disasters or events were more catastrophic than others. These three terrifying calamities, worse than any plague, flood, volcanic eruption, or earthquake, and which caused the destruction of various lives, are ranked in importance as follows. 1. The outbreak of World War II. 2. The Mongol invasion of Genghis Khan. 3. The Crusades between Muslims and Christians. Although no civilized nation in the 7th century AH, 12th and 13th centuries AD, can claim to have suffered more or less from the Mongol armies compared to other nations, the Mongol disaster that befell Iran was not the same as what happened to the Russians, Poles, Romans, or inhabitants of Asia Minor. This is because, although the Mongols destroyed, burned, killed, and looted everywhere, what they did in Iran was unparalleled elsewhere. Iran was the first target of the Mongols, stronger and wealthier than other nations, and most importantly, the enmity and hatred that Genghis Khan, the leader of the Mongols, had towards Sultan Muhammad Khwarezmshah, the ruler of Khwarezm in Iran, was unmatched. Even though the devastating storm of the bloodthirsty and ruthless Mongol hordes initially targeted Iran and its primary objective was Iran, this storm gradually spread everywhere and brought death and destruction to all people. Therefore, it should be considered a global event, a widespread calamity, and ultimately a significant historical occurrence. This event truly changed the course of history and the fate of many civilized nations of the 6th century AH, overthrowing several dynasties and introducing new civilizations that were clearly rooted in Mongol origins. To better understand the real significance of this historical event, it is useful to briefly mention the emergence of a powerful force known as the Mongols or Tartars. The Mongol land is part of the vast region of Central and Eastern Asia. Central and Eastern Asia, from east to center, includes the areas of Inner Mongolia, China proper, Eastern Turkestan. These two Asias are bordered to the east by Manchuria and the mountain range known as the Greater Khingan Range and the Great Wall of China, to the west by the Caspian Sea, to the north by the Siberian Plain, and to the south by the vast and formidable Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau. Among all these mountains, there are many arid and scorching plains, and only in some of the peripheries of these deserts are there a few inhabited and lush areas. These are the homes of the warring tribes of the region. Of all these inhabited areas, the worst and most unbearable is the land situated among the San, Altai, Yablonoi, and Khingan Mountains. This land is inhabited by some yellow-skinned tribes, the most famous of which are the Mongols and Tartars. Due to their harsh and wild environment, these tribes were incredibly fierce, savage, resilient, and hardworking. Because of the valleys, scorching deserts around them, they had little to no contact with their neighbors and were largely unknown. The primary occupation of these tribes was warfare with each other, and their pastime and entertainment included raiding, particularly stealing women and sheep from one another. Due to these conflicts, the two main groups, the Chiyat and the Karait, were fierce enemies. The enmity was so intense that if the Chiyat captured a Karait, they would throw him into boiling water, cook him, and eat him. Conversely, if the Karait captured a man from the Chiyat, they would literally tear him to pieces and feed him to their dogs. Observe the irony and twist of fate that from such a savage people, one should emerge, known as Genghis Khan, or by his original name, Temujin, to conquer a significant part of the world and establish a vast empire that included Iran, China, Russia, parts of Rome, and other regions of Europe and Asia. Genghis was the son of Yesuge Bahadur, the chief and Khan of the Chiyat tribe. Yesuge initially named his son Temujin, which means iron, reflecting the strength and resilience. When Temujin was 13 years old, Yesuge Bahadur died, and naturally, the leadership was supposed to pass to Genghis. However, the tribal leaders were unwilling to obey the young Temujin, especially after his preliminary encounters with one of his main allies, Ong Khan, the chief of the Karait tribe, fell apart. Despite his youth and inexperience, Temujin triumphed and Ong Khan was killed. This was Temujin's first victory. From then on, Genghis set out to conquer the world. Preparations were being made in other regions to facilitate the mission that Genghis himself called celestial. Among these preparations were the events occurring within the Khwarezmian Empire of Iran. Sultan Muhammad Khwarezmshah, also known as Alexander II and Afrasiab II, under the strange influence of his mother, Turkan Khatun, eliminated the tribes that could have possibly stood as a strong barrier against the Mongol invasions.